All right, guys, so yesterday we left off with multi-step equations. I had given you kind of the breakdown of them, the steps to solve them, according to some other teachers. Either way is an acceptable way to spell parentheses. So if spelled with an I, that would mean singular. So one set of parentheses, or with an E is plural. So there you go. I didn't misspell it. Or maybe I did and didn't mean to. In any event, we left off here, okay? And I gave you example one as a multi-step equation, and you can see it's just got a little bit more, so a couple more terms. So each one of these things we would call a term, and so when we say like terms, your terms need to match exactly, okay? So in the event of example one, we've got a couple different terms. We've got a coefficient with a variable. We've got just what we would call a constant as well. That's just a number, okay? So what's going to determine what's like terms and not like terms is that variable. So as we move on into the year, you're going to see different equations with different variables, as far as you might have k. You might have k to the second power, k to the third power, and those powers actually create different terms. So you can't just start smashing things together. But, all right, so multi-step, how are we going to solve them? Well, it's just kind of a cleanup process. You start from going down your checklist. So distributing, I look through the equation and see, do I have any parentheses? If the answer is no, I'm going to look for, how do I combine like terms? Now, you're either going to be combining on one side of the equal sign. So notice the equal sign is here, and all of these terms are on the left. Or sometimes you're going to need to combine across the equal sign. And if that's the case, if you need to go across the equal sign, there are some added steps in there. So we're going to start out by combining these like terms on the left side of the equals. Okay, so looking at the left side here, we have to try and smash some things together that are the same. Okay, now there's nothing on the right side here to combine, so I know once I get everything combined, and I'm going to skip a line just because I know what I'm about to do, it's going to just clean it up a little bit, okay? So I know this 2K and this 3K need to go together. Those two terms are like terms. They match in shape, so to speak. So I have a positive 2K and a positive 3K, and if I put those things together, I'm just combining them. Now we've got 5K, okay, and then we've got these two constant terms as well. So if I'm combining -6 and -7, so I kind of look at them as separate pieces. So -6 and -7, putting those together, what do you end up with? And that is -13. Okay, so now that I've kind of cleaned it up, it's just a two-step equation. Very simple to solve from here. You guys should have those steps down. But just to kind of write it out, I'm adding 13 because I got to get rid of that subtraction first, working backwards a little bit. So add 13, making sure we keep things nice and organized. Those cancel out. I'm left with 5K on the left side here, and -48 plus 13 is actually -35. So then we're going to divide by that 5, divide by that 5. And so my final solution here, my final number comes out to equals -7. All right, so there you go, right? -7. Example 2. And for this one, we're going to kind of keep the same and say 10 minus 5W plus 9W minus 7. All right, so there's example number 2. Again, first thing we want to check for is parentheses. Do we see any? And if we do, we can distribute. Again, we'll talk about distributing when we actually have it. But no, we don't have any. So now we're on to combining like terms. So looking at the left side, there's nothing to combine there. Okay, so we've got just 19. All right. On the right side there are some things to combine. Now, the reason I picked this one as opposed to the other one, again, I want you to pay attention to what sign is in front of each number. So I know I'm going to be combining these W terms. Okay, so with this one, right, we've got -5. With this one, +9. Okay, so those two need to go together. So -5, +9, that's a 4. Okay, 4W. It's positive 4W. I'm not going to write the plus sign out front because we don't do that. We know a number is positive if it doesn't have a negative. And then once those are combined, we kind of ignore them. And so you've got a +10 and a -7. So basically 10 minus 7. And so that's a +3. Okay, so signs are very important when you're doing equations. Pay close attention to the signs. One little sign change and you end up creating an ugly problem down the road where numbers just aren't working out. Whereas if you keep the signs correct, things tend to, again, work out. So two-step equation now, going to focus on that addition or subtraction first. That's +3, so I'm going to take away 3. Again, keeping things organized, keeping things balanced. That cancels out. 19 minus 3 is 16. And 4W here. And you can see how things are starting to work out nicely for us. And we're going to divide by 4 on both sides. And you end up with 4 equals W. That is my solution. Okay. So again, we can go back and check it if we really wanted to. Not going to go through the whole process of it, but remember, if I was plugging this in, that would be 10 minus 5, parentheses 4, plus 9, parentheses 4, because everywhere I'm plugging in that value, I'm putting a parentheses, all right? So that ends up being, an order of operations problem there now, and you just kind of follow along with that. So you got 10 minus 20 plus 36 minus 7. Smash all those together, you should get 19, if we did it right. Okay, I'm not going to do it for you. But moving on to example 3. Okay, so switching pages here. And this is just continuing multi-steps. And like I said, I just want you to have as many examples as possible so that you can be sure to do what you need to do when you do it. All right, so example 3. I'm going to go ahead and write this, and I'm going to do a little bit of talking in between. We have been dealing with just combining like terms up till now, and so you can kind of see where we're going with this. We have parentheses now, which means we have some distribution to do. So just like we had previously, if you have a situation where you have a number next to parentheses, that means multiplication, right? So we need to, and so we'll put a little thought bubble right here, right? Parentheses mean multiply. All right, so parentheses mean multiply, which means I need to multiply this 7 with what's inside the parentheses, okay? And it's a simple process, right? It's just simply taking the 7 and multiplying it into each one of these, all right? Now, what we have to remember is there is a number in front of that X. And it's not 7 because, obviously in location, yes, the 7 is in front of the X, but there's actually a number right here. It's an imaginary 1. And when we multiply with a variable, you're simply going to multiply the number with the coefficient. So we're multiplying 7 times 1. And so you get 7x. And then you also multiply, and I'm going to write that right there, 7 times -6. It's important that we treat that like a -6, and we say negative or minus 42 equals -14. And there we go. Okay, we're down to a two-step, which we should be able to roll through pretty quickly. So plus 42, plus 42, those cancel. 7x equals negative 14 plus 42. Again, if you're not supremely confident with your integer operations, use that calculator. But if you are okay with it, I know that that's 28. And so we divide by 7, and you get x equals 4. All right? So that's example 3. Again, distribution just means we're going to kind of multiply it in term by term. All right, so I chose the next example just because it does have a little bit more involved in it because it's got a fraction in there. But for most of us, I think that's really not going to be an issue, and that's great. We're not scared of those guys. So p minus 42. Now, as we kind of roll through some of these distribution problems, I understand that some of us might know ahead of time that there are different ways to solve these. There's an entirely different approach than multiplying this negative 1/2 into the parentheses. You could actually go about it a whole different route, and I get that. But for the initial, okay, before we get real fancy with all this stuff, we want to have kind of one solid way of doing things, right? So when we multiply with a fraction, you just simply multiply by the numerator and divide by the denominator. Okay, you can do a lot of that in your head. You don't have to go and make it 0.5 and multiply in the calculator or anything like that. It's simple, okay? So for instance, right, I'm just going to kind of over here because we all should know this, but if you didn't get taught correctly, then that makes life tough. So let's say 3/4 times, I don't know, 20, right? So your old math teacher would have probably told you put the 20 over 1, multiply straight across, and then simplify. Okay? And while that's not wrong, that's just kind of working a lot harder than you have to. So when you multiply with fractions, it's real simple. You multiply with the numerator, so 3 times 20 is 60, and 60 divided by 4. So we're kind of working in this triangular fashion. So 3 times 20 divided by 4. 3 times 20 is 60, divided by 4 is 15, right? So 3/4 of 20 is 15. And you can do that every time. So with this one, okay, we've got negative 1/2 times 12, right? Because we're going to multiply this number by the coefficient of p. So negative 1/2 times 12 is negative 6p. So it's negative 1 times 12, that's negative 12. Negative 12 divided by 2, negative 6. Okay, same thing for the negative 42. We've got a negative times a negative. So just to get that out of the way, it's a positive. And basically 42 divided by 2, so 21. Okay, all right. My problem is now nice and simplified, cleaned up. So we're going to start by solving the two-step. Again, get rid of the addition or subtraction that you got going on. And we know we did that on purpose so that that cancels out. So I've got negative 6p equals, and then negative 33 minus 21. Again, be very careful with your integer operations because that should be negative 54. And, you know, they set this one up. If you accidentally did it the other way and got like 12, well, it still stays pretty, right? So 6 and 12, they play nice together. And you get 2 as an answer, or negative 2, and you feel good. But unfortunately, when you plug that in, it wouldn't work. Okay, so I'm going to kind of separate this so we don't mix it up with the problem. So we're going to divide by negative 6 here, divide by negative 6 here, and p is going to be equal to a positive value. 6 times 8 is 48. So that's 9. Okay, so solution of 9. Oh, and I forgot to even identify that solution. Okay, all right, so again, I'm just going to keep throwing more examples at us so that we get used to different situations, so that when we get to the assignments and we see these different types of problems, we kind of know how to deal with them. Okay, so example 5. All right, example 5. We've got -7 plus 11x equals 3x minus 47. All right, so this one looks a little different from the others in that we know we have terms we need to combine, but they're on opposite sides of the equal sign. Okay, so I need to move things across an equal sign. And now as we do more and more of these, you'll kind of learn the patterns. And so you don't have to think as hard or even show as much work. But for right now, obviously I'm going to show what's going on, right? So the first terms I want to get together are my variables. So I need my x terms, my 11x and my 3x, to somehow get on one side of the equal sign together. Now you can make the choice ahead of time which way you want to move them, and we'll talk about why you might want to move one way versus the other on the next example. But for this case, right, 3x is going to, we want to move that guy over to the left side. So in essence, I want to get rid of it over here. I want to cancel it out. So just like we would do with the numbers in a two-step problem, we're going to do the same thing. If I have 3x's over here and I want to get rid of them, well, I take 3x's away. But to keep things balanced, I need to do the same thing on the other side. Now you have to decide, right, where can I take 3x's away from on the left side? If there is a term, so 11x, then you just take it away from that one. If for whatever reason it's not there, we'll deal with that at another time. But so these two cancel out. That was the whole point. We got -47. All right. And over here we've got 8x and -7. I didn't touch that. It's still a positive 8x because positive 11 minus 3 is 8. All right, so past that, okay, now we're down to a two-step equation. Looks like it did before. I'm going to get rid of that 7, and I'm going to add 7, all right? Don't get confused with this one. I need to get rid of -7. So how do you get rid of a -7? Well, you add it, okay? So that's going to go over there. We got to do the same thing on the other side. 8x equals -47 plus 7 is -40. Things are starting to work out nice and pretty. I've got divide by 8, x equals -5, right? Solution. Good. Okay, so example 6. Four minus 6n equals 60 minus 2n. All right, so kind of the same situation. We have variables on both sides of the equal. And when we have that, we know we're going to have to cancel some things out to get them on the other side. And normally, I would say let's get our variables on the left side, right? Because that's just what feels right. It's to have the variable on the left and the answer on the right. But if you kind of have some foresight here, if I move this 2n this way, okay, I'm going to be adding 2n to cancel that out. Well, -6 plus 2 is -4. And so that's going to leave me with a negative coefficient. So just to kind of keep things positive, I'm going to go ahead and move the 6n to the right. Okay, so when I do that, again, my whole point is to cancel it off the left side, and to keep things balanced, I need to go ahead and put it over here on the right. So that goes away. We have 4, right? That's a positive 4. And Didn't do anything with the 60. Now negative 2 plus 6, well, that's plus 4n, right? Two-step equation now. We're just going to work it like we always have. So minus 60 minus 60. You've got 4 minus 60, which is negative 56, equals 4n. All right. And so we're just going to divide by 4 here, divide by 4. Not sure what the answer is, use your calculator. But we've got negative 14n. Okay, solution. Done. All right, just a couple more examples, and then you'll be free to take that video quiz and work through your homework. But example number 7, okay, just getting a little bit more complex. We've got 12 minus 3r plus 2 in parentheses equals negative 7 r plus 6. All right, so we've obviously got parentheses here we've got to deal with, so definitely going to be some distribution happening. Got variables on both sides of the equal sign as well. So what do we do first? Well, just in the order of the steps, you distribute. Okay, well, I'm going to do this right side first because it looks easier. That's negative 7 times that imaginary 1, right? So negative 7r. Negative 7 times positive 6 is negative 42. All right? Now, very important here that we realize that 12 is not what number is in front of the parentheses. Okay, that 12 is in front of a subtraction sign, so it's actually separated from the parentheses. So he's hanging out. Okay, what you need to realize is that little minus right there, or plus if it was, is actually attached to a number. Okay, and that little number is an imaginary 1. Okay, there is a 1 right there that we need to account for. Okay, so that is negative 1 times positive 3. So we've got negative 3r. That's going to go here and here. Negative 1 times positive 2 is negative 2. Now we've got some things we can combine on a single side. So I know this 12 and negative 2 can go together. That's going to give me a 10. So negative 3r plus 10, because I have a positive 12 minus 2, that's positive 10. So I write it like a plus 10. Okay, nothing to combine or do over here yet. And notice I'm not trying to do two things in one step. I'm just combining and cleaning up one side. And now I can start to think about moving things across. Again, I could move the 3 this way if I wanted to. That's going to give me a negative 4. Or I can move the 7 this way and I get a positive 4. Well, I always want to keep things positive at all costs, so we're going to do that. And it's got to be with its like term, so I'm going to put it over here. That gives me a positive 4r plus 10 equals negative 42, because those cancel. That was the whole point. All right, so from there, it's simple two-step. Going to roll through that and solve it really quick. So minus 10, canceled. 4r equals negative 52. We go through and we divide by 4, That means r is equal to negative 13. All right, so solution. All right, so last example here. Not much different than what we've been dealing with so far. That's example number 8. And that is negative 3 parentheses n minus 5 equals 3 n minus 9. All right. So example number 8, actually going to be one of the questions on your video quiz. So I'm going to need you to fill that or solve that one, get a solution for it. And that's going to be one of the answers or part of the answer. So maybe it's one of the steps throughout. All right. So we'll do that. You'll have a short assignment after today's lesson. And once you've done that, you're good to go. We'll see you on Monday.